Hello, welcome to Season 11 of The Horrific Podcast. We're two friends who live in different places but share a love for scary movies. This season, in each episode, we will not both watch the same movie on our own and then record a conversation together about it later. We have 10 previous seasons of doing exactly that, and it's time for something new. This season, each episode will focus on a larger horror topic, trend, or maybe even rumor. We'll speculate about upcoming movies, debate genre definitions, and do our best to apply the perspective of two people who have watched way too many horror movies to different types of horror media. Thanks for coming along for the ride. And we're back. Another week, another episode in Season 11, in which we are departing from the format that we established in the previous 10 seasons, where we would each watch a movie and then talk about it after. This time we're just basically taking all of the experience that we've gained by learning about and watching and reviewing horror movies and applying it to other areas of media and entertainment and the world that are influenced by horror. And this week we're getting into something that I'm actually really excited about and have wanted to talk about for a long time, and that is sort of the crowd-funded horror scene. So we're talking like Kickstarter, Start Engine, GoFundMe, that type of stuff for horror movies.
Basically, the people have talked, and we're just following what they're saying.
Who have you been talking to?
The people.
Oh. Where my interest in all of this started was actually way back in what feels like an entirely different universe, which was the summer of 2018, when I saw a Facebook ad that was basically like selling shares in an upcoming horror movie. And so I clicked the ad because it was like the first time I'd ever seen one that actually seemed really relevant to my interests.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like a new cell phone that I already bought or something. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I was blown away, and I bought in, and then the pandemic happened, and the movie still hasn't come out. And so it seems like now it's going to. But like along the way, I've been getting these like monthly update emails on the progress and like everything that's gone into it. And I found it to be super fascinating. So I want to talk about like that whole piece of like being a part of it. But also, you recently discovered a Kickstarter for a horror movie that you were super into and intrigued by and bought into. So now we have kind of two examples of different things that we are financially invested in for horror movies. And I thought it would be fun on this episode to talk about why we picked the ones that we did, like what appealed to us enough to actually spend money, what we expect from them and what we hope they'll turn into, and then also kind of like something about the experience of being part of the generation of something we really like, which is a horror movie.
It's exciting though, because it's like, for me, it almost opens like this new avenue for content of talking about specifics with horrors, like horror movies. Like this could open up some doors to some pretty good movies, or maybe some really bad ones, but there's only one way to find out.
For sure. And I think that's one thing that we kind of keep coming back to, and especially during our 100 Years of Horror series, where we talked about like very early on, you could tell quite clearly the difference between like the big budget Hollywood horror movies and then the more independent horror movies. And I feel like in today's day and age, throughout time, the thing that we've really liked about horror movies is the creativity. And I think that the crowd-funded avenue is a way that gives movie makers probably the most freedom of creativity that they could possibly have. Yep. So it's exciting to be a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly the case. I mean, the idea is, the concept is you come up with this really gnarly idea, you present it well, and hopefully you get some backers, to it. But, you don't have to worry about a label coming in and trying to tell you, like, I said label, but what I mean, like coming in and telling you like you can or can't do this or whatever. It's like, no, you can do it. Like, you have the money already. Yeah. People already have paid into or bought into this. It also, I think, could go the exact opposite way, where like people back and then you get like this 30-minute YouTube video content style, or something, but
could be a complete train wreck.
It could be. And
I could be ashamed to have my name associated with it.
Yeah.
That's a real possibility.
Well, technically with both of them, because every time I buy anything online, I'm not sure about, put your name down.
Oh, okay.
That's why you get a lot of spam.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that does explain a lot.
I'm not going crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, so my movie is called Cryptid, and it was funded on Start Engine in 2018, and the pitch page for it basically looked like an old school like Angel Fire site. Like it wasn't great.
Yeah.
And it was so long. There was so much text, but I want to read you some passages and try and convince me that this was not like this is one of those things where you read it and you're just convinced the universe is a simulation because it is too directly targeted towards you and using like your own language to convince you to spend money. Yeah. But it just said, want to be part of an old school creature feature? What do we mean by old school? We mean practical. We mean real, tangible effects like the horror movies of the 70s and 80s. The terrifying ones before all the CGI fake stuff.
Love it.
They're going to sue me for copyright infringement because I've said exactly those sentences on 20 of our episodes.
Or we could sue them.
Well, yeah, we're talking. But the thing is, I'm financially invested, so if they go down, I'm out of money.
I'll sue them.
Yeah.
I won't be out.
So let me continue. They wrote, as a whole, the digital filmmaking industry has helped horror films immensely, allowing lower budgets to produce higher quality products while steering clear of the watering down that can occur from big studios. This has been a great thing, as we believe independent horror tends to have the best and freshest takes on the genre. Again, right in line with what we say. Mm-hmm. However, we think what has gotten lost are the great creature features. And so then they go on to say that, there used to be like all these examples of really good like monster creature horror, but really we don't see that much anymore. It says the ones that do come out now we feel are too silly, with flat characters, over-reliant on CGI and digital effects, and are too quick to show you what a computer can do. We think the heart and soul of a great creature feature is one that focuses on characters and story, then teases you into thinking about what it could be and brings you along slowly until the fear and tension are at its peak to finally show its hand. A terrifying drama, in other words. And I'm just like, sold. Take all my money. Done. That is exactly what I want. And what really stood out to me going back to this, sort of now after we're in the midst of this season, is just that I really, really felt all of that. Like even more so now than I did when I originally read it. Mm-hmm. And, a couple weeks ago, several weeks ago, we were talking about horror subgenres, and then we did like the deep dive on monster horror. And I really do feel like the things that have the more practical effects have always stood out to me way more. And the things that have more CGI effects just do not work for me at all. So this pitch almost reads like a rallying cry of just like telling me all the things I already think. And that's wildly effective. And I'm glad that they like went in hard on that. But it also makes me feel like every once in a while you and I do happen to stumble across things that are actually true and legitimate observations and criticisms of our genre.
Yeah. That's rewarding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me it's like it definitely is something that we've kind of talked about for sure, but it's also the fact of like, it's like hope. I have this hope that this is going to be a new trend.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I mean, just a couple podcasts ago, I felt like I was just talking about like, it'd be cool if someone made a current 1950s style creature film.
Yes.
Like we were just talking about that, and like, hopefully we get something really good out of that for this, and I have high hopes. I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, and I thankfully have been able to see a few like early clips and trailers and stuff just by virtue of being a backer. Mm-hmm. And so that's been really cool because this feels pretty well made. It does not feel amateur at all. So for a movie that is just being made, from crowdfunding, I wasn't really sure what to expect as far as like cinematography and camera quality and editing and sound and all that stuff. But it seems pretty great so far. Yeah. Brad Rigo is the director, and it's coming out through 221 Films, and both of them I would associate with smaller movies, but that have been doing it for a long time. So there's definitely a lot of knowledge of movie making as a craft, but also as an industry. And so that's the other thing I wanted to talk about with all of this is it's been really cool because now I've been getting these like regular update emails that are very in depth about like where they are in the process and the challenges they face and the budget trade-off decisions they have to make and so on. And getting to read those updates like during COVID and like all the things that they had to deal with and work around during that time was really fascinating and some really cool insight into just everything that goes into making a movie and all the things that we wouldn't necessarily think about just kind of logistically that are part of that. And so just being a part of this has been a really fun experience for me as a lover of horror movies, as an art, right? Like the whole, like everything that goes into creating them as well as the final product.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and the thing too, like if you read on like the Start Engine Cryptid page, like it even goes in to talk about why they don't want to do CGI and things like that. Like it's respectful, and I did have a question which you may have answered is how did you hear about Cryptid?
Oh, it was 100% back when I still used Facebook. It kept popping up as a Facebook ad, and whatever the text was in that is like they were pitching it more as like an investment opportunity, which I don't see it as at all. I think it is like I want to see this movie. I believe in what they're doing, so I was happy to give some money towards it. But what has been extra cool about it is like this, multiple years of bonus content that wasn't supposed to last anywhere near this long.
Yeah.
But because of COVID, it's been kind of being able to see these regular updates on the whole process. And that's been a really interesting thing for me. And I'm glad I did it.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because like when I was reading up, like when you sent me the link, I was reading up, it was talking about, ticket sales and the highest grossing or most profitable movies, like things like that. It's like, gosh.
And this was all back when, before that whole game changed.
Yeah. My thought too was like, man, this is way more, like I just was like, hey, this sounds interesting.
Yeah.
But at the time I thought that you were doing it as an investment thing. So I was like, what the heck?
I'll just be happy if the movie ever comes out, but
it's
been a fun journey.
Yeah. Investments. You never know what you're going to get.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So tell me about your movie.
Yeah. So my movie I picked out, so there was recently an article I saw on Reddit and it was talking about, basically, this film that came out is called Shelby Oaks and it was saying that it broke the record for Kickstarter horror film. Like, so it had the most backers. So I was like, whoa, hello, what do we got here? Cause I'm going to follow the crowd.
Yeah, naturally.
I'm a sheep.
As one does.
Or a shep. Sorry. Singular. So I started reading up on it and I was like, trying to figure out like what it's about. Like, honestly, like I probably went into it negative thinking like, oh, what's this shit that we're going to see? And then I started reading on it. I was like, wait, whoa, hold on. Like it's like found footage, like it was just like a couple things were hitting, making a place. So basically, like the little blurb on Kickstarter. So mine's on Kickstarter and it's called Shelby Oaks. It says, I would like to personally invite you to join me in making Shelby Oaks, an upcoming debut feature film. Just talks about how he's been into filming and all that. He's made a couple short stories that quote unquote have been award winning. So seeing that, it's like, whatever. This one specifically is supposed to be a found footage film about a group of paranormal investigators called Paranormal Paranoids. So this story has some pretty deep roots to it. So I'm going to try to keep it all together via my notes. So if it sounds like I'm reading, I definitely am.
I'm here for it.
I'm going to let people know. So basically, they're wanting to, they decided they're going to make a film based off this paranormal paranoids. And so there was a Twitter account that was created, and the account starts mentioning about like looking for a group of the paranormal paranoids and saying that they were back on YouTube back in 2005, from 2005 to 2008. So it started out pretty like cryptic, like, hey, has anyone, I just thought of this, I haven't thought any, seen anything of it, whatever. And then as time, and this is real, like this is happening in real life. I think it was back in 2012. It starts getting a little bit of traction. And then another account that was created the day after the first Twitter account that started questioning this, they start kind of confirming what was going on, and like, yeah, I remember that, whatever. Then they start posting some videos, like clips that they find, or that they had saved, and it's clips from the original show, and it looks older, like it has like a whole intro to it. You can actually watch those on YouTube right now. But basically it's kind of like this mystery that's starting. And the reason why I'm talking about this is I find it really interesting because it could be whoever wants to decide can decide. I'm not going to say, but they're claiming it to be true. The reason why I find it interesting is I just think it's a pretty interesting, original, new age idea to start this mystery up on Twitter about this supposed group of paranormal investigators who went missing and no one can find anything on them anymore, which is the case for this, I guess I should have said. And using social media to kind of start this little, get this ball rolling for what I assume that was going to be them just putting out episodes, or something like that. But this new account that was created, that I was telling you about the day after the original was created, started posting those videos, and like the videos started getting more and more kind of intense and scary. And then there's this whole, basically there's an hour-long video on YouTube that, I think you guys should watch. You just look up paranormal paranoids, and it should tell you what you need. I would probably add Shelby Oaks, but basically, like, it's starting to make it seem like the second Twitter account started like kind of stalking the first Twitter account in a way, and there's some creepy things tied to it. But long story short, found footage. This group of 4 people decide that they're gonna go and be paranormal investigators. So it's kind of found footage style, and it shows some clips that that you can find, and it's basically, this movie is basically about the paranormal paranoids. So it's not about the story that happened where it started. It's about them disappearing, basically.
It's like a prequel.
Yeah.
A good old-fashioned prequel.
Yeah. Definitely. It's like explaining the story. And the thing that kind of got me with this, first off, found footage, love it. That's all I needed. Found footage, I'm in. The second, it was like, okay, well, we know it's not necessarily true. And after I was doing some digging, there's a thing called ARG, which I, in my notes, don't even have what it means. But basically, it's like, real life role-playing game. And what people, or supposedly what this is about, is they were doing like a real life role-playing game. And that was part of the game, the ARG, and how it's fake. Now, I didn't dive in and dig in that much because I don't want to really ruin how much money I paid to see this. So it's like I just want to see it for what it is.
I just want to say, whatever 2 consenting adults decide to do in the safety of their own bedroom is their business. Mm-hmm. So I don't really need to know more about adult role playing, but I think I support it. Yeah. Oh, it's alternate reality game is what they call it. Same difference.
So Jess is the person who made the first Twitter account, and basically saying that they tried to find this YouTube video and they can't find anything, and of course, it's we're in the new age where you can find information almost on anything. And so it's like, there was trouble finding wait, were they talking about Shelby Oaks as a town? Was it like a corner of a bigger city? And they finally found the location, what they're kind of talking about. And the interesting thing is that it did kind of bring this community together, which doesn't necessarily seem like it's too thriving right now, but it brought this little community together. And another thing that I thought was interesting about this, as I was already sold on this, already gave my money for it. But, one thing I thought was kind of interesting is in one of the videos that the second account created, which the reason I'm saying second account is because the name is N01R with the arrow pointing up, and I think they call it they just say Nor is the name of the second Twitter account, but I'm just gonna say second Twitter account. But they posted, this was the final video of the paranormal paranoids, and it's it shows the girl and she's saying how she's scared, and you hear noise outside the room, and she goes investigates and all that, but in the background you can see image in the window, and people try to make out what that image was. But the thing it looked most the thing it looked like the most was Wendigo monster, which technically is Helltown, Ohio Wendigo monster, which is a Native American folklore also surrounding another mystical beast that roams the Helltown hillsides. Which I just yet again another thing I've kind of talked about was. We were kind of talking about how it'd be interesting to see other country urban legends, or even different races. Everything just seems real interesting. I think we talked about that when you were doing your movie for I Watch You Watch, or I Pick You Pick.
Whatever.
Anyway, one of them, and that was one thing I thought I'd really like. So if it does involve that, I'm going to be pretty stoked.
Well, the Wendigo is also a key player in Stephen King's Pet Sematary novel.
Yeah.
So
it also reminded me, the way it looks reminded me of, I think it was The Ritual. The way the monster look in Ritual.
Nice.
Yeah.
So who is Chris Stuckman? Because when I pulled up the Shelby Oaks Kickstarter page, it says in very large font, a horror feature film from Chris Stuckman.
Yeah. So basically filmmaking has been his love of his life. So he makes YouTube videos about it. He's made short films about it. Filmmaking. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Just about filmmaking. He's made, that's what his YouTube channel is basically about. Gotcha. It's just filmmaking, all that. Like I was saying, he also did the 2 award-winning shorts, Auditorium 6 and Notes for Melanie. But that's kind of it. This guy is just basically a film fan, and it doesn't just start with his shorts either. One of the videos I was watching about him, he was talking about how he's always actually I think it's in the Kickstarter, one of the Kickstarter videos, but he remade or recreated certain films that he loved growing up, like Indiana Jones and stuff, but after he was adult and could have better equipment, or at least older, not talking about an 8-year-old doing this, but recreating scenes from that, or fan fiction films and stuff like that. So he's just been a fan of film and saw the story and just thought he wanted to make it into an actual film.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and I was really curious if he was somehow related to the Shelby Oaks video that you referenced earlier, the long one.
Well, here's the thing too. I don't know if anyone 100% knows who all was behind all that.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So he could have been involved, but it's not public.
And supposedly Jess, who was the one who created the first account.
Sounds made up.
Yeah, it does, doesn't. But supposedly, she's gonna be somehow part of this film as well. As far as I don't know if it's a producer. Granted, all it takes to be a producer, as we found out last week, was donating $5,600.
Exactly.
and you can be executive producer. But
you just buy your way right in.
Yeah. So supposedly she's going to be part of it. Also, supposedly the original cast, I'm going to say, from Paranoids are supposed to be have some thing with it. I don't know. But it definitely, here's the deal. In my ARG, my real augmented reality game, alternate reality game, I'm going to go in believing that this is true story. And that way, when I watch it, I'm going to enjoy it more.
I used to do the same thing with lizard lip towing.
You're dang right.
One thing that stood out to me a lot, just looking through the Shelby Oaks stuff, is it made almost $1.4 million.
Yeah.
From like 15,000 backers. So one, that's a ton of people, and two, that is a boatload of money. I mean, that's like almost $100 a person that are buying into this, which is an absurdly high average for something like this. And so I was just curious if you had any insight into like what led to this being so popular. Is it just the combination of like his YouTube community and the Paranormal Paranoids internet community combining together to go ultra viral, or like was there something else with this that sort of elevated it to your knowledge?
Yeah. So I think just from my interpretation, one thing we've talked about is it seems like viral. You don't know if you're going viral or not. Like, I don't know if anyone knows the formula for it, but the thought would be that Chris Stuckman, who has a popular YouTube channel, obviously that's like free advertisement, right? So like he can advertise anything he wants. He has 1.98 million subscribers on YouTube.
God dang.
Yeah. So, and gets 100, anywhere from 200 something views to, like I see one there for 42,000, 271,000 to 42,000. It's like, so where I'm getting at is that 100% had to be a big chunk of where this came from. I think it was also, so is that his YouTube channel? I was reading, when I was doing some research on this, I was reading about things posted in Reddit about it, but like before it was like, basically kind of before it broke the record, and then they had a lot of like upvotes and things like that. So I think it was just a combo of everything. Like what both of these have kind of teaching us is like, you don't have to have that big background, like the big company backing you. Mm-hmm. If you want to do it, you can, but the tools of social media can be used for good in the sense of getting followers and backing of your projects. Like if you get the support, then that's all you really need. Like it doesn't matter if a big corporation company says, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. It doesn't matter because you got the backing. You already have all that, money basically.
Well, and I'm just curious what they'll do with all this money.
That's why I was kind of wondering too.
What I mean? Like if they had done all the planning for this thing and they're like, all right, good day, $250,000. If we really stretch ourselves, we could make a crazy movie. And now they're like, okay, how about like 6 times that?
Yeah. So with Kickstarter too, like as you go down, it starts showing the things that it's unlocking now that they've got more money. So like the $1 million unlock, which is what they got. They have like an animal wrangler, second camera, a new backer exclusive poster. Basically, like, they can just get better equipment, is what my understanding. Now, what I was wondering, though, is, like, when they did the $250,000, they had to say, like, okay, well, $10,000 is going to be set aside for casts.
Mm-hmm.
Does that go up now? Because now
That's a good point. I bet they could afford me at this point.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. With shirt on.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I don't want them to see your lizard lick tramp stamp. But, I mean, that's what you would hope that they would do. I mean, I think.
So my question for you is, with Shelby Oaks and with you as a backer, what is, like, in your mind, the best case scenario that it could be as an end result? But what is also the thing that, conversely, you would see as, like, worst case scenario it ends up as?
Yeah. All right, I'm going to answer this, but I want you to answer after I'm done. For yours,
okay.
Not for mine.
Okay.
So, as someone who is naturally nervous, I would think that there's so much hype tied to this that I think the way it's going to go is the film's going to come out, and I don't think it's going to be a game changer film in the sense of like they did something super crazy, amazing that hasn't ever been done before. But I think they're going to produce a good film because Chris is a fan of filmmaking, so hopefully he knows what he's doing, and I'm thinking he does. Now, that's if the hype kind of goes down. If the hype stays up with what it is right now, I don't know if you could please everyone, and it could. Just like it's crazy how things can go viral, like you just don't know what it's going to do. Like it could go the exact opposite way too, in the sense of like you put in all this work and then, you broke the record for this and then it's a flop. Like people are just like, this is the worst movie in the world. Does it necessarily matter to Chris? Well, it technically should if he wants to continue making films.
A thing that I'm curious about is if something with this many investors becomes very like Twitter driven. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like if it ends up being a thing where everybody's in the comments all day, every day, and like reacting to every short that gets released ahead of time and has lots of input, then does he end up trying to please all of the people and then make a movie that doesn't have any like distinguishing unique features? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely understand. Yeah, I don't think that's the case because he's already got he's already surpassed what he's wanted there, and I think he did that based off of the initial idea and the initial story. Now, I don't know how the whole executive producer, associate producer, how, like, is it just a credit or do you actually have a say? I don't think you actually have a say. I think it's just putting your name out there. Yeah. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I would be willing to bet that this guy already, just based off of of YouTube, his YouTube alone, how prepared you have to be for some of those videos. They look well made and all that he knows he knew going into this what he wanted to make. And my hope is that it's only going to be better quality and not change the content of it. It's just going to have a better opportunity to have better, if it's CGI or whatever the case is. Yeah. It's just going to be better. So I hope it's better. I hope this also like spurs like a new movement with horror films now. Cryptid.
Yeah, so with Cryptid, if I pull up the Start Engine page now, it says that it had 412 investors and had about $170,000. But then below that, it says it has raised $10K of its goal. So things seem a bit off there. I feel like I remember it.
It's $10K to $374,000 was the goal. So it's like raised.
It was just trying to get in between there?
Yeah.
Okay, anyway. Mm-hmm. So, but I feel like I remember getting emails about it securing more funding than that. But regardless, we're talking on a very, very different scale than Shelby Oaks.
Yeah.
Like a factor of 10 almost. Mm-hmm. So this movie, and again, I have seen some of the clips and stuff, and so I feel like I'm expecting a pretty well-made movie. The thing I'm most worried about is if the script and acting are so bad that it detracts from the monster. Like, based on what they were trying, the way that this was sold, it's obviously somebody who's a huge fan of horror movies and of practical effects and is going to make a sold-out movie to accentuate those things and to try and scare you, which is exactly what I want from someone who's making a movie. Mm-hmm. But with the much lower budget, I do kind of worry that some of the other aspects of the movie making will not quite live up to that ambition. And and unfortunately, somebody who is not a good actor, who is not reacting believably to a monster, can be almost as distracting in the context of the movie as bad CGI for the monster.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the thing I'm still a little bit puckered about. But like I said, I still feel like I've had a really good experience with this whole thing and with all the production updates and reading all that along the way. So I'm still optimistic. Best case scenario, it's just, kind of almost like a sold out horror B movie, and it doesn't take itself like way too seriously and is able to pull off some really cool, like, old fashioned monster movie jump scares, gore, like, really get into it with a monster that's convincingly scary.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting how they play out, because if you think about too, like, what if both of these? I mean, like, both of them, if the $169,000 is what Crypto raised, and then with Shelby O's how much they raised, thinking like this also could hurt future horror films, in the sense of like people aren't going to trust them if like these quote unquote really popular films produce just turds.
No, that's a good point.
So
I mean, like, yeah, for sure. Because if all crowdfunded horror movies are terrible, then people are going to stop crowdfunding horror movies. Yeah. so there's quite a bit of responsibility that comes along with this, for sure.
Yeah. I'd also just real quick like to shout out the artist who did the artwork for both of our films, because it has to be the same one.
I mean, it sure looks similar, right?
It does. It really does. Black and white background, red lettering. Yeah, it's
They gotta look.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be great though. I can't wait to actually like do these for the podcast.
It's just gonna be the same dude off Fiverr.
Yeah. Probably the same guy who did ours.
yeah, right, exactly.
Finally, something not 80s.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I'm excited. This is a really cool world for us to get into, especially having, been two people who do a podcast exclusively about horror movies for like 600 years or however long it's been going on. To be able to get like sort of this insight and to be more hands-on with being a part of the creation of horror movies is just one step in our long-term quest to open a horror movie theater in Australia where we highly curate the movie experience and only invite people we like. And so... Yeah,
and during Christmas time we play Christmas movies.
Well, yeah, obviously. Yeah. And sometimes in the summer we play Westerns, but we don't have to go into that.
That's true. Yep.
Yeah. But I think, based on these two experiences, I want to go Kickstarter for how we're going to fund that.
Yeah, we could. We could for sure.
I'll just have to release more of my topless pictures so we can go viral.
That's true. I'll get feet pics going.
And that's it for today's episode. If you've listened this far, then thank you, and we hope you've enjoyed it. We're always looking for new ideas, so if you have any questions, comments, or movie suggestions, please send us an email at thehorrificpod@gmail.com, or feel free to comment on or message our Facebook page. Just search for The Horrific Podcast. Thanks for listening. So last week we were talking about requels and slasher requels, and this week we're talking about Kickstarters for horror movies. I feel like we're going to be hashtag trending.
I don't know why we're
Did I
not
do it
already.
right?
I think so. I think you mean £.
Am I Insta famous yet?
Yeah, show boobies for that. Did you show your boobies?
I've literally never recorded an episode of this with a shirt on.
Oh my god.
I was told that's how we'd make money.
By God, we've made none. We're negative still.
People don't talk to me.
It's because you don't have your shirt on.
That's a good
Shit,
point.
that would have been a good reference.